Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blue Talk. Again, John Dave and myself are going to look back over the final of the Pro 12, also review Leinster's pretty disappointing season, and also discuss the Irish performance against the Babas and Ireland's victory against Argentina in the Under-20s World Cup today. So boys, new Pro 12 champions. Glasgow beat Munster fairly decisively, 31-13.
They certainly did. Kind of in one way, you don't want an Irish team to lose, but if one of them's got to lose, you'd probably pick Munster. And also to have a new winner of the league is always a good thing. I mean, apart from the big three, we've only had Ulster 9 years ago, something like that. And
2005, 2006.
Yeah, and then the Scarlets the year before that. That's the only two other teams that have ever won it outside of the big three. So it's great for the competition. Glasgow deserved it because they topped the league, B because they played the best rugby, including in the final, and what more can you say?
Yeah,
I wouldn't take it from. They went out and won it too. They weren't negative. They couldn't accuse them of trying to play cynically or do anything at any stage in the season. So.
Maybe a little bit against Ulster now, in fairness.
There's no real question that Glasgow were the best team this season. Overall, I mean, if you take it as the best team in the knockouts, yes, they were. The best team in the league stage, yes, they were. They played pretty much the best rugby.
Yeah.
And you could even extend that back into last season. They were certainly one of the better teams last season as well. This season they broadened their squad. They added depth, which they hadn't had before.
Yeah.
So overall, this year Glasgow were the winners. Fair and square, justice was done, as it were. Munster were unfortunate. Munster have 3 world-class players. They were missing 2 of them, and the 2 that in the areas that they were missing, I mean, they lost O'Mahony out of the back row, and they had to push Donnacha Ryan back there.
Yeah.
Their back row just got completely run over by Glasgow. With taking Donnacha Ryan out of the second row as well, consequently left Paul O'Connell on his own up against a pretty nippy Glasgow second row pairing.
Yeah.
Then of course you take Conor Murray out of the
that was the biggest loss,
and
by far.
He's the guy who gives Munster all the direction. I mean, it used to be Ron O'Gara was the general in the team. He's gone. Murray is the general in Munster's team now, and without him, they looked. When the forwards didn't have the ball, the backs looked directionless. The forwards didn't really. When they had the ball, they didn't really know what to do with it without Murray to give them the guidance that he normally does.
Yeah. Oh no, he's the as you've just said, he's the main man in the team.
Yeah, but also Keatley is poor. He's had 2 years there as their number one, and he was been gradually brought in the previous season before O'Gara retired, and he hasn't kicked on. And they backed the wrong horse. They backed him instead of Hanrahan. Hanrahan's gone, so they're stuck with him unless they move. I don't know, Madigan down there. I don't know, but they're not going to. You're not going to win major competitions with Keatley kicking the way he does and not dominating a game.
I agree with that. I think to a certain extent this year Munster have been able to cover over that because of Murray.
Yeah.
And without him there, it's just glaringly stark.
Dave, if you think about like say the league, just, John, you mentioned a few of the teams in the Pro 12 have won it.
Yeah.
There's 5 teams that could possibly win it. Leinster weren't at the races this year, therefore there's 4 in the race to qualify. Do you know what I mean? Munster happened to get a home semi. You win your home semis and you're in the final. So they didn't have a whole lot to do. If you look back on the real competition, which is the European competition, like they were no more at the races than Leinster were in the Pro 12. Like they didn't look like ever getting out of that group.
I think there's a certain element of irony in that Munster, by our standards, had a good season. Whereas by their standards they didn't. Where European rugby is everything for them, the league not so much. Whereas we, by Munster standards, had a good season, European rugby being everything, but by our own standards, not so much. It's kind of a turnabout there.
Yeah. Well, last year things were reversed in many ways. We got into the knockouts, and they were in the semi, but they had an away semi and lost it. And we didn't. We went out in Europe in a really hard group. They went through in Europe in a fairly easy group, and they thumped. Who was it? Toulouse in the quarter. They thumped them and ended up in a semi-final. So they're the top 4 teams in Europe, like we were arguably this year. But what does that really mean?
Well, that's what I don't think it actually means anything. I'm just talking about by the general rule of thumb that each team or that each kind of province uses to judge itself. Munster judges itself, but how it does in Europe, we judge ourselves by how we do in Portugal.
That's very true.
But taking the game back on Saturday back, I mean, it didn't, like you say. I mean, every time Munster's come up against a test, it's pretty much failed. The only time that I would say that the only time Foley will be happy with how his team did against one of the big teams was against us in the Aviva.
Yeah, only did they. In fact, Glasgow kind of did to Munster what they did, what Munster did to us in Lansdowne Road, because they really looked kind of rudderless, and they were kind of physically taken to the cleaners as well, which is very, un-Munster like, dare I say it.
But like, do you know? Like, I just think that the way Glasgow played the match was refreshing to see. Like there was it was everything good that isn't anti-rugby. Like teams nowadays, there's a mantra: oh, you can't play rugby and win. You have to kick it. You have to kick tactically.
Yeah.
You have to put up these contestables. All these new language. Whereas
you don't actually.
Well, clearly you don't. But and hopefully other teams will see the way Glasgow played.
Because the other side of that is Glasgow have two small wingers and an inaccurate kicker of a scrum half. They have He's brilliant at doing what he does, but he's not a great kicker. Whereas if you have Conor Murray, Tommy Bowe, and a couple of Carneys, you're going to kick the leather off the ball. That's just simply the way it is.
Well, that's true. You got to play to your strengths. The Waratahs last year won Super Rugby by hardly ever kicking the ball.
Yeah,
I mean, they just held on to possession, and they did the business. However, it's probably harder to do that in our weather for a start in January.
But like if you're a neutral and you've no interest in any of the teams and you're watching that match, you go, Jesus, there's only one team I'm up for here. The team that's playing positive attacking rugby. Likewise, if you're more interested in a different sport, whether it's football or Gaelic games, if you're trying to win them over, the only fact that people are watching Irish rugby is because they're winning. If that pendulum swings and we are losing, the format of the rugby that we're playing is appalling. Like, it is not interesting or exciting to go to. It's only exciting because we're Irish and we want the team to win. But it is horrible rugby to watch. Well, I think so, and that's my...
I think it's very well executed rugby, but I do know what you mean about it not being exciting. It's not being, but, the thing is, with a coach like Joe Schmidt's teams play winning rugby.
Yeah, and winning rugby was flashing the ball around a few years ago.
Yeah, and it can prove that it can do it again. But like,
they will.
But just going back to the Glasgow game, like Munster just shot themselves in the foot. Like the first two tries came where there was no move set up in that game. Like it was
individual error.
It was individual. Well, your man must have bumped about 4 different players. Yeah. Then not alone was he able to bump them off.
As well.
He was able to hold the ball, 6 feet in the air, and no one tried. And
have you seen the size of his hands?
On the second try, like it was like a basketball. Keatley was jumping up trying to bat it down instead of trying to put him on the ground.
That's poor preparation. If you watch how Leinster dealt with him 12 months previously, the first tackler hit him. The second guy didn't even bother trying to attack, ran past him to prevent the offload. So if he's stuck there standing upright with the ball up in the air, it's what you call it? It's a choke tackle time.
Yeah.
Because he can't offload it. Munster weren't doing that. The second guy was coming in and, like you say, he was flapping at the ball instead of coming round and stopping the offload. So your man was free to offload. He was free to play off. Munster couldn't get arms on the guy to create a choke tackle situation.
Yeah, good point.
Which is an area where Munster were actually the one area where they did have a bit of an Indian sign, although it kind of was a bit 50-50, but Munster did have a bit of an advantage over Glasgow, was in the scrum.
Yeah.
But they weren't able to create by holding him up in the tackle, which is easy to do because he does run very upright.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't create situations where they could use their strong scrum, and in the end, what Glasgow were able to do was they were able to create situations where they were able to use their clever backs off in.
Yeah, but there was one. If you mentioned about a strong scrum, Munster won a penalty. They initially won a penalty on the halfway line. They opted to go for touch. They won the resulting line out. They got a scrum from it. They won the scrum. They won a penalty at the scrum, 5-10 metres out, and they chose to take points. And at that, it was 21-10 at that point. They took their 3 point. Their subsequent last points.
Last points in the game. Yeah.
But if they had gone for the try, I mean, they'd gone
for
up the
another
line,
scrum.
or maybe a scrum, or gone for a line out. Like, it might have been a different perspective on the game if they had got to 17-21, you know, put
Possibly.
a bit of nerves on. But I just thought it was a crazy, silly decision.
But you have a guy. You see, the thing is, you have to remember that Paul O'Connell wasn't the captain.
Mm-hmm.
The next guy who's captain, in terms of and in both in leadership and in experience and in actually the role, was Peter O'Mahony. He wasn't there.
Yeah.
So you had an inside centre making those calls.
Okay, but
when I don't think he really should have been. I mean, I think Paul O'Connell would have wanted to go for another line out in a drive. I mean, that would be his nature.
But Paul O'Connell, like, I mean, surely Hurley would defer to Paul O'Connell on that particular. You know, say, what do you think?
Well, I don't know.
Who
Maybe
knows
O'Connell
anyway?
was being quiet in order to not undermine Hurley. You never know.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just a sign that things are not all as they should be in the camp.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying as an example. It might be O'Connell trying to build up a guy rather than But anyway, but no, you're right. I mean, you would have thought that another set piece would have been the right option there. Whereas the points, but Glasgow. I mean, the only thing Munster did better than Glasgow was rack up possession stats. That's it. I mean, everything else Glasgow did better than Munster. I mean, they turned over the ball better. They were better in the back row. Once they got their line out working, it was better. Their backs were way better. They used them better. I mean, I don't know. Was Zebo was he carrying an injury from the previous week?
Was,
He had a huge padding on his ribs.
Because he looked very very hesitant when going for balls and stuff like that.
There was one moment he went to kick through and they blocked it down, and he just didn't look at the race.
No, he didn't look sharp at all, and it was kind of I'd say Munster took a calculated gamble playing him, and it just didn't come off. Conversely, in fairness to Munster, guys, Andrew Smith played well.
Yeah.
I thought Keith Earls looked very very lively.
Did, yeah.
Andrew Smith got a lot of bad press this season, but like I remember saying at the beginning of the season before we had Theo and all that he would have done us for a year to kick the can down the road after O'Driscoll. I mean, he's nothing incredibly special, but he's a good solid player with decent basics who could do a job.
Paul O'Connell tried gamely, but he was up against. I mean, Glasgow had three locks.
Yeah.
Who, played.
Well, so did Munster. In fairness.
No, played as a partner. No, they brought out. What I mean is they played as a partnership. In the row, whereas Dave Holland isn't of that. I don't know why they didn't. Why they played. Billy Holland. Why they played Donnacha Ryan at the back row. They must have some other back row that they could have played there and put him in there beside O'Connell. Because the two of them are a great partnership, well experienced partnership.
There was two of their starters were missing, and then they're missing their scrum half. Like, they were kind of unfortunate. And then
they were on a hide and do nothing in some ways.
Clearly didn't look fit.
Another guy who was missing from Munster that we and Glasgow had plenty of guys missing as well. But another guy who was missing from Munster that we kind of forget about in the shadow of Mahony's absence was Tommy O'Donnell. I was going to say Timmy O'Donnell. Tommy O'Donnell, a big loss. I mean,
he could have been
not a world class player, but an international class player certainly. And that's they were left. I mean, he's not a guy. I don't have a lot of time for. I've said it before, but he was kind of left on his own, swinging in the wind there with CJ Stander. He got overwhelmed, but this time it wasn't his fault.
Yeah. He was quiet. Yeah. Compared to his normal.
But he was. I mean, in fairness, he was left swinging in the wind, kind of thing. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I mean, Glasgow kind of did to Munster pretty much what they wanted to do to them, and they didn't even buy them flowers afterwards.
but Glasgow now, kind of like, you would have questioned what would have happened to them last season after being probably the outstanding team in the league. They get to the final and then they get dicked by us. And they had two roads to follow. They could have either gone down
the Ulster way,
but they didn't. They went
maybe
a Leinster way. And I was watching the celebrations at the end, and it reminded me a lot of when we won the league in 08. Like, there just seemed to be that the whole squad wins you the Pro 12, and everyone was involved.
Their celebrations didn't look exceptionally joyful. They looked very resolute. There was a lot of resolution in those. It was like, yes, we've done it in terms of job done.
The other thing that he's done, Gregor Townsend has done, is he has this mad rotation policy where
that works.
He just seems to. It's like a jigsaw. When you hear about Matt O'Connor was given out that he didn't have continuity of selection for various reasons. This guy, when he has it, he doesn't use it. He chops and changes the whole time. He was missing his preferred centre pairing, the young pretender Mark Bennett, who spent a year or 2 years maybe in the academy in Claremont. Dunbar, the two of them together were lightning all season. Didn't have them for the final. Did it matter?
No.
No,
He had a
they've been missing for a little while. So
they've been out for a couple of years. But I mean, you look at it. I mean, they had a converted back row forward in the centre. They've
Richie
been
Vernon.
again. They've been converting them for the best part of a year.
Yeah, but
it's worked.
He's a number 8. Also, they had guys like what's that ginger lad's name in the back row?
Oh yeah, really good.
He scored the first try.
Open side flanker. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
He was playing really well, and he was linking with the backs, as you could see. He was linking with Nakarawa for the first try. Can't think of his name. It's not Roddy Grant. He's Edinburgh. It's the other lad.
I know
They'll come to me.
Yeah. Strauss was outstanding.
Yeah, Strauss is
now Scottish.
Yeah, he qualifies just before the World Cup rather than CJ Stander qualifying just after the World Cup. That was a bit of an oversight. By the two relative passports there were kind of being juggled.
Passing in the night. It's actually interesting when you talk about World Cups and you talk about we talk about the Barbarians game and have any Irish players done themselves any favours? Have any Irish players done themselves any favours in any Munster players done themselves any favours? I'd have to say Keith Earls is about it.
Yeah.
And he was quiet enough.
I think he worked hard though. He tried everything he could. I mean,
even in defence, when they chipped through for that one, and he was able to bat it away.
I think he's done himself some favours. It's hard to say.
He's been looking great to date in the since he came back from injury.
Savage.
He's been looking great.
Strike rate. I think he's got 7 tries in 8
But
games.
he's always been different class as a winger. He's always been quality. I mean, there's never been any question about that.
And there's that space now in the team for a utility back. You've kind of Madigan with his 10, 12, 15. You've Earls with and Fitzgerald with pretty much everything else sewn up. Some of those have to be selected.
The danger is if you bring too many utility backs, you bring no specialists.
Yeah, but you're going to have at least 2 of those 3 players.
Yeah, you're going to want one of your wingers who can do it, and you're going to want one of your 10, 12, 13s who can do it.
So, will Fitzgerald keep Earls out of the
That's
team?
question.
Will they both go? Will Earls go instead? I think that's. I think I was watching Against the Head the other night, and they had Fitzgerald's name down as a certainty.
I wouldn't go that far.
I wouldn't be quite so certain.
I think
they actually had Madigan's name down as certainty, and I definitely wouldn't go that far.
I think there's a lot of guys for whom the warm-up matches would be a lot more than warm-ups. Because there's guys there who have, I think there's maybe 28 places in that squad done with. I think he has that many nailed on, and then there's very few wiggle guys, bolters.
Do you remember 4 years ago, you would have said Thomas O'Leary after a couple of seasons before being the starting scrum half in the Grand Slam, winning
he played himself out of it in the warm-up
and getting
games,
selected for the Lions, and he was given every opportunity. Maybe he's given enough rope, but whichever one, he took the rope and he played himself off the team.
Well, see, that's the danger in those matches. I mean, if you're a guy who's teetering on the edge, you can either go left or you can go right, and one way is off the plane and the other way is on the plane. But if you don't give it you're off the plane anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Tomas O'Leary tried.
Conor Murray was the bolter back then.
That's right, yeah.
And he ended up
going to be a bolter this season.
No.
You would have said Marmion up until a while ago, but he seems to have been between injury and a bit of loss of form.
Bolter has to come in and start in the matches. Marmion's not going to replace Murray unless Murray's injured.
Marmion just doesn't have the form. I mean, he just doesn't have the form. I mean,
well,
it might be someone like Furlong leapfrogging
one of the tight heads,
Marty Moore and Ross. And actually starting in a big game.
That's another possibility. There's a few people could still force their way in. You just.
I'll tell you, my bolter for the World Cup is Michael Bent.
Michael Bent, yeah. Well,
I think he's
he probably will
pretty
go.
much guaranteed.
In fact, he plays both sides. What's your views on O'Connell? He's obviously it's become official now. He's going to leave.
Is it officially official?
Officially, he's played his last game of rugby for Munster. He's going to finish up with Ireland after the World Cup, and he's going to join Toulon.
I have 2 views on it. The first view is Paul O'Connell knows nothing to nobody. He's done his time. He's played in Ireland for 15 years. He's won 2 Heineken Cups with Munster. He's won a Grand Slam, 2 championships, and however many Triple Crowns with Ireland. So if he wants to go to France and earn a few bob before he retires, I mean, he's been at it long enough. Fair play. The other view is based on how Johnny Sexton was treated by certain elements of the media in Ireland. So Paul O'Connell is a money-grabbing mercenary.
Different thing though. Different, you know. Johnny
It's a very
Sexton's in
different
the
thing.
middle of his career.
They didn't make that fine discernment of a decision
But
between them.
isn't it interesting though that like he's still contracted to the IRFU, or he was? They've actually released him.
They've let him go. Yeah.
But like every dog in the street knew that story. Now Toulon can go out and rebuff it, and they clearly went when Thornley reported it about a month ago. They said, "Oh no, he's definitely not coming, and it's going to be."
Well, they can't say anything at that stage.
Well, I know, but they've tapped him up. They've bought. Well, I don't know whether they've bought him out of a contract, but he's contracted to the IRFU. Surely that means that he's not eligible to be spoken to about his future rugby playing career. A year down the road, technically a year down.
It depends on how it was done. This is true certainly of rugby and of football. If you approach the employer for permission to talk to the player, you can do so. So if Toulon did it legally, they would have gone through the IRFU, who would have given them permission to
What
talk
do you
to
think the
Paul.
chances of that happening?
I think chances of that are really, really high.
I don't.
Well, the one thing I do find a little bit strange is the fact that
Because
he's-
if they did it the other way, if they tapped him up and he agreed to be tapped up, why would the IRFU release him? Why would they not sit him on his ass for the remaining year of his contract?
Because they
because
want
there's too much
goodwill
respect
and too much
for the
respect.
guy.
Maybe for the
But-
same reason, if Toulon approached the IRFU out of respect for the guy, they would have passed it on to him.
Well, perhaps I don't know, but like there is a precedent. Like they did it last season for Coughlin to get out of his contract and
Yeah,
go to Poe.
I just think that it's funny that he's retiring from international rugby. I would suggest that it's possible that, you know, if there was an injury crisis in the Six Nations next year and there was no second rows, that you could see him, because they have to release him. They can't actually say no
Regulation
way.
9. Yeah.
You know, there's a rule there that says that he has to be released.
If he wants to be released. Yes,
Of course. So, you know, I'm not saying that he's going to play in the Six Nations next year by any stretch, but I'm saying that, let's say Ian Henderson and Donegal Ryan get both slip in the shower just before the Six Nations
Together.
I can
What are you insinuating?
I can see
There is nothing a club
out of my head.
under the laws of the game and the regulations of World Rugby. There's nothing a club can do to prevent a player playing international rugby.
Exactly.
I would suggest now sometimes they can do it with players from, you know, poorer countries and stuff like that. They can put the pressure on wage wise. They can't do that with Paul O'Connell.
No.
If Paul O'Connell wants to make himself available for Ireland, Paul O'Connell will be available for
Well,
Ireland.
Packy's Botha was playing for South Africa
Yeah.
while he was with Toulon, you know. So, yeah, I'd say that the idea is that he will retire internationally, but I'd say there'll be a little, in case of emergencies, break glass and take the emergency Paulie phone out. Paulie, we're in trouble, come back. You know.
I'd say if we don't win the World Cup, you might see him out. You might see him playing the Six Nations.
Maybe so.
What's this if we don't win the World Cup? Come on, Dave.
I'm very confident we will be involved on the last weekend of the World Cup, one way or another.
Well, that just means we're getting to a semi-final.
Yeah,
That's all.
I happen to believe it'll be on the Saturday or on the Sunday we'll be playing. Where we might be playing on Saturday, but I think it'll be on the Sunday.
Well, your lips to God's ears.
I know I'm a mindless optimist when it comes to the Irish team under Schmidt, but I really am a mindless optimist. I really think we're going to win the World Cup.
And how did you feel in 07 before we went to the World Cup with Eddie?
No, I didn't think it in 07. I thought we were going to do really, really well. I thought it was going to be our best World Cup. I certainly didn't see what was coming down the line.
None of us did.
I went up to Belfast for the Ireland League
Yeah,
match.
you weren't happy after that at all, I remember.
I just knew.
Yeah.
Just the team didn't. And the way we played, and there was just no buzz
Shocking.
about the team.
I didn't think that team in 07 was good enough to win a World Cup. But I wasn't enthused. But I remember hearing Andrew Trimble being interviewed, I think the week before the World Cup started, and he was talking about, you know, the days of us going over to make up the numbers are gone. We're there to do, you know, to make a serious impact on the tournament. And I thought that's what we did. Or I thought that's what we would do. In the end, we did make a serious impact on the tournament
For the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons, by being whipping boys for the most successful Argentinian team ever. But this time around, I think there's some serious. I mean, we've only ever got to quarterfinals.
I know.
I mean, when you think about it, if we
not
get to,
all the time.
It's a
like,
disgrace.
I know our best performances have involved quarterfinals. If we get to a semi-final, that's an improvement. On that's the best ever Irish World Cup performance.
The other side.
And that's not inachievable by any means.
No. Just have to beat France and Argentina.
Yeah. Say that, yeah.
But, you know, having said that, if you do get to a semi-final, then all bets are off. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You're 160 minutes away from being world champion, you know. So,
Or third.
or third,
Or fourth.
or fourth.
But you can't finish fifth.
No, like Leinster.
Well, speaking of Leinster, our scrum
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 coach.
coach has now left.
Yeah, unfortunately, he seemed to have a very good impact. I mean, he took over from Greg Feek, who's well regarded, and moved up to the Irish. And if anything, our scrum improved. You know, our scrum was a fucking weapon. When we were playing really, really dirt rugby, and we couldn't catch a cold, our scrum was going well. So you know, that's got to be in part, at least, down to him. So from that point, I'm kind of sad to see him go.
The numbers of players we had available in the scrum.
Yeah.
Our depth of props deepened under him, which I thought was.
However, you know, he's obviously Matt's best buddy since they were 9 years of age or something, and you know, maybe Matt has an opportunity for him somewhere else, or maybe he just, you know, maybe he didn't like how Matt got on, or maybe he, I don't know, who knows, or maybe he just feels that
Maybe he was
his
pushed out the
buddy's
door.
gone.
Maybe he was pushed out the door to make room for a former prop who could come back and coach the team.
Well, that was my next. Well, that's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah.
But that was my next thing. Is that maybe it's good to have a clean slate for somebody to come in and bring their own team. I mean, okay, Leo's there, but you know, there's no.
It's not.
You could
unusual.
sign a kind of a scrummy forwardy coach type head coach, or you could sign a backs head coach. You could allow him to bring in if he's a forwards coach.
Just remind me where Ewan Mackenzie played.
Tight head.
There you go.
That's what I was referring to.
Oh, sorry.
We thought you were talking about he who shall not be named in UCD anymore, Milud. But
Careful now. Yeah.
Um,
That's who I thought he meant as well.
yeah, but it's not unusual in professional sports for coaching teams to move en masse, whether of their own volition or of the volition of their bosses. That when one goes, they all go. It's that. I mean, that's the way it generally works in rugby, in American football, in baseball, in soccer. One goes, all goes, kind of thing.
Definitely in soccer, I think. Anyway, it seems to happen, doesn't it? But yeah, it's a clean slate, and isn't that something that everybody's been crying out for Leinster? Is a clean slate and a chance to go in a different direction.
Well, I read the statement on the Leinster website. So what he said was, he said he wanted to give the new coaching and management staff the best chance for a fresh start for the new season. But it also went on to say that Leo Cullen was going to remain as the temporary head coach, and himself and the head of fitness, I can't remember his name,
Dan Tobin.
Dan Dunn, are going to be in charge of, when the players come back on the 1st of July, they're going to be in charge of the
Which is
non-internationals.
Which is
It's
fine.
just going to be work.
You know,
That's
I mean,
just dog
that's
work
training,
anyway at that
yeah.
stage. Yeah. The problem is though, and it's a problem we had all last year. It's all very well getting rid of the scrum coach. It's all very well getting rid of the head coach. What was the biggest problem last year? Skills.
Yeah.
We still don't have a full-time skills and kicking coach in the club. I mean, Richie Murphy is essential to what Ireland are doing for the World Cup, but it's damaging Leinster. There's no question of that.
Well, maybe that'll be part of the new coaching ticket as
Yeah.
well. Like you've got the areas you've got a defence coach, a scrum coach, a backs coach, a head coach, and a skills and kicking coach. That's
Defence coach.
that was the first one.
Oh, sorry.
I said. So you know you've got all
By the time
those.
we got to the third, I'd forgotten what the first one was.
Those tablets that you're on, Dave. Yeah, what are they? Android tablets.
Android tablets, yeah.
Well, anyway, you've got those 5 rows, so you've probably got maybe 3 people. Like look at Joe Schmidt had defence, backs, and head coach. You know, so it doesn't mean you're getting 5 people, but you're definitely going to get a spread of people. And now the decks are clear. All you've really got is a forwards coach, which Leo is more of a line-out kind of mall type.
That went well for us last year, all right.
Yeah, well,
Well, like,
let's not go there.
I just made a note. Like, say since Sexton left, which is 2 seasons ago, we've lost 2 head coaches, 2 scrum coaches, our forwards coach, our fitness coach, and our skills coach is a part-time employee.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't forget all the strength and conditioning guys are gone as well.
That's
They've all
right,
gone
yeah.
on to Ireland.
but you do need a bit of continuity
You do,
as well
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's I don't.
There's Leo, Mr. Continuity.
Wow. I think it's a bit unfair. I think you're giving him a bit too much stick now, lads. To be honest, but
Who? Leo?
Yeah,
I'm not giving him
Give
stick
him
at
a
all.
stick at all.
I'm just saying that he is this continuity. He's gone from player to coach to
I think what might be
head coach.
what might be happening is that too much is expected of Leo. In
well,
terms of
maybe he got promoted a bit too high. I mean, look at Gervin Dempsey.
yeah, but
Gervin
maybe-
Dempsey served as his apprenticeship, as if you like.
yeah, with the academy.
Gervin was retired maybe 2010.
That's
I
not what I'm
guess.
talking about. What I'm talking about is that Leo's been given. There's too much expected of Leo in terms of he is now holding the fort on his own.
Yeah.
You know, that's an awful lot for an inexperienced guy. You know, I'm just that's all I'm saying. I'm saying that's I'm not criticizing the guy. I'm saying maybe it's a bit unfair.
Having said that, there's 6 games during the World Cup, which are going to be a lottery no matter what we have or who we have.
They're going to be a lottery for
If
every
we
club
still
club
had
as
Matt
well.
O'Connor, there'd be a lottery. If we have absolutely no one, there'll be a lottery. And if we have a new guy trying to find his feet, there'll be a lottery. So it's you're throwing
I don't
dice.
know if it's going to be that much of a lottery for the Welsh clubs. Did you see them make up of their training squad? Huge numbers of English-based and French-based players. Gatlin's Law, Maria.
Well, who really thought that was going to?
No.
when they select Jamie Roberts for the Six Nations next year, that's when you'll know there's no Gatlin's Law. I mean, the World Cup, I wouldn't be getting too worried about because he hasn't actually signed. He's not actually officially a Harlequins player till after the World Cup. So he's still on his previous contract if you want to look at it that way, because the Harlequins had to buy him out of his contract.
Still with Racing Madrid, all right?
He is, yeah.
So he's still a foreign player.
No, he is, but the rule is that you have to have signed a new contract,
Okay.
and
Since
then you'll
then,
be
yeah.
then you'll be ignored.
But I think we could lose. We'll be without 17 players in that World Cup during that period of time. So that's a big loss. So a new coach coming in is going to have his work cut out.
Exactly.
And then like I say, if we're involved on the last weekend, right, one way or another, there's less than a fortnight to the first European match.
Yeah.
Are the players going to be coming back straight away flying back from England straight into camp to get ready for a European Champions Cup game after playing a third, fourth place or hopefully a final?
Advantage Toulon, you'd
Yeah.
have to say, with their
the non-World
Kiwi
Cup player,
non-World Cup players, although the 2 Aussies are going to be disappearing by the looks of it after the World Cup. So watch this space, which probably leads us on to our we now know all the teams that are available or that are qualified for the Champions Cup.
Well, we do after an absolute cracker of a playoff between Bordeaux Bagla and Gloucester. Stunning game of rugby.
Was
Looked all up. I mean, it looked like the French had done what the French always do when they come to England, rolled over and died, 15-0 the whole lot, and then Bagla just came roaring back.
It was either 19-0 or 19-3.
Yeah,
at
15-0,
one stage.
19-3, and then they just came roaring back, and it was just playing like you were saying about Glasgow. They make Glasgow look like Munster in the early noughties. Honest to God, it was just balls out rugby. It was brilliant stuff.
It was great.
It's brilliant
Great
stuff.
game,
Last minute dropper to win it, fantastic.
Yeah, well, they had a penalty coming, but
Yeah.
even so, it was
And just
beautiful.
shows Glasgow karma after what they did to
Gloucester.
after what happened to Gloucester. Sorry, after what happened to Connacht.
Yeah. Good stuff.
But it's no good. Doesn't do Connacht any good, unfortunately. You'd also have to say Gloucester are probably going to try a leg more, and Connacht are both going to try a leg more than Bordeaux probably will in the actual championship itself.
But Bordeaux have Bordeaux's coaching staff are Raphael Ibanez and Joe Worsley. They're 1 and 2, and they were quite determined that they were going to do. They were very determined that they were going to qualify for Europe this season. I mean, they were
And
big
B
on
going
it.
to take it
And
seriously.
B going to take it seriously. I mean, Raphael Ibanez played with Wasps when they won the European Cup,
So did Joe, yeah.
and with Joe Worsley. So those are guys who know the benefits of European rugby.
Well, we'll see now.
But that finished the lineup for the competition anyway.
So when's the draw? Middle of June, is it?
17th.
As soon as they can heat those balls.
So
So what pot are we going to be in?
we're third.
pot?
We're third seeds. So it actually might. You don't know. It could go very bad. The good thing will be if both Toulon and Clermont end up in top seeds. That means we can only get one of them. If we can avoid both of them,
I see no reason why we shouldn't hammer Toulon.
it's
The only
quids
reason we
in.
didn't lose to Toulon this year was because we were coached by Matt O'Connor and then Naveen Madigan as out half.
Well, we shall see.
So we should wallop them next year. So I hope we get Toulon and Saracens.
oh, the dripping of sarcasm off that last comment there, Dave.
I do actually think though that for a team that's a good team that is in pot 3 because it has gone through a period of turmoil that without necessarily a loss of quality within the club itself.
We are a lot more scary to them than they are to us.
Can be advantageous. Note, it doesn't. We're used to playing the Toulons. When Toulouse were great, we were used to playing Toulouse. We're used to playing Munster when they were great, when Clermont are great. They're going to shit themselves when they see us coming out of the pot number 3.
Well, think of it this way: Clermont last year were in pot number 3.
Yeah.
You know, they were. In fact, they may have been in pot number 4. I think they came 6th in the league last season, and they ended up in a pool with Munster and Saracens, both of whom they beat, and ended up in the final. Okay, they didn't win the pot, but they got all the way. So
I think sometimes it can be advantageous to be a good team lower down the draw.
We'll see.
But it worked in our favour last year, though.
Yeah,
Like, considering the quality that we played with throughout the season, and we still managed to get out of our pool because it was relatively easy compared to others.
It's always best to be top seed. I mean, obviously.
Well, anyway, you know, obviously this is going to be our last program until the autumn when the warm-ups come around. But when we have a quick review of our season, like, obviously we don't want to delve too much into the negatives. We've been through that for the last 9 months. But you know, if you looked at the club's KPIs, when they would have said at the start of the season, they would have said home quarter final, check. A semi-final minimum in the European Cup, check. But didn't qualify for the knockout stages, which probably was the death knell. Well, I think it was actually the quality of the standard of our rugby that we played was the death knell for O'Connor.
I think there are so many things that could, you know, justifiably, in some cases, be attributed to the death knell of O'Connor's. You need a room full of campanologists to sort it out.
Bell ringers.
I think that our season was ultimately very disappointing. How we did in the Pro 12, as I said before, we kind of judge ourselves by how we do in the Pro 12. And we didn't.
It's the only way to judge yourself, because you're playing every week
league,
in the bloody thing.
And we didn't do well. I mean, you can't disguise that we didn't do well. We did okay. We did well in Europe. I mean, we got to the semi-final.
Anybody can have a piss easy group and fluke their way through and get a home quarter final.
But like, you look back at some of those matches, we were beating. We
could have done better.
We were well up against Wasps in Coventry. We let that slip
to a draw.
By the fingernails. If that match had lasted another 5 minutes, we probably would have been beaten by Bath.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had opportunities to beat Toulon in Toulon, obviously, but ultimately we dropped short of winning that game. But it was some of our performances. I mean, our match against Treviso, the last game, home game of the season, was muck. The 2 matches against Dragons.
There's almost nothing in the Pro 12 that's
the 4 Gopper droppers.
Yeah.
They were the bad moment of the season.
There's nothing.
Connacht, Treviso, what do you call them? Toulon, and what was the 4th one? There was a 4th one. We missed a dropper at the death. Well, anyway, even if there was only 3, the Gopper droppers really put the kibosh on us.
There's nothing to be saved from the Pro 12 season, ultimately. If you play rugby like that, you have to win.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
But the disappointing thing, regardless of whether we won the league or we didn't qualify for the knockout, was that very few of the younger guys coming through put their
very few younger backs.
Okay, backs, but they didn't put their hand up to and there's opportunities there now. You know, Darcy's going, O'Driscoll's gone, you know, Sexton is coming back, but Madigan has not been setting the world on fire. Gotbert's obviously gone, so there's an opportunity there for a reserve out half to come through, but he wasn't given an opportunity. Likewise, you know, I wouldn't say Dave Carney's playing particularly good rugby. McFadden's been injured, and when he has come back, he hasn't played great. And Rob Carney is definitely there for the taking, especially the Irish team. But no one has come through or been given the opportunity, certainly, to come through and say, pick me.
Well, there's 2 positive things we can say about that. One is we have an academy stuffed with backs, some of whom are showing serious promise. And 2, we've got 6 games during the World Cup to hopefully blood some of them.
But the other side of that is we blooded a lot of forwards.
We have, yeah, and that's because I suppose you could say it's because we've lost so many forwards to Ireland, like, you know, whereas we used to lose all the backs. Like, I mean, when you were talking earlier about playing rugby that's easy on the eye. You know, we had backline of the gods in the mid-noughties. You know, absolute backline of the gods. It was the international backline. Munster had the forward pack of the gods, and they were some serious pack. So, you know, if you have a back line that can throw the ball around, that's the way you're going to play. And if you have a pack that can dominate, and a guy like O'Gara that can kick the goals and kick for the corners, that's the way you're going to play. And if you don't, you're an idiot. It's like England in the World Cup in '91, where the Aussies shamed them into playing free-flowing rugby, and they lost because they were playing against their nature, if you like.
I mean, you look at the next season. You're going to have, you know, when everyone's back, right? And we'll say everyone's fit and everyone in the world of rugby is playing well. You've got Keane Healy, Sean Cronin, Mike Ross, or Marty Moore. You've got Toner. You've got Kane Douglas. You've got Rhys Ruddock. You've got Jamie Heaslip. You've got Sean O'Brien. Then you've got the problem position at scrum half, and then you've got Johnny Sexton.
Yeah.
What kind of rugby do you play with that team?
It's not looking bad. It's not looking bad up front.
But you don't have to play that rugby, Dave, with that team.
No, but you'd like to win.
No, but you don't have to play that type of rugby with that team, because while it's a very good pack, it's not a pack that's going to beat the shite out of an early old pack. They wouldn't have beaten the shite out of the Munster pack or against the Leicester pack back in the day.
I would see no reason why they wouldn't.
No way would they do.
Absolutely they would.
Toner?
Yeah, Toner's turned into a really good player. Douglas, we don't know yet. We haven't seen him, but I'd have no problems with 1 through 3 and 6 through 8 taking on any pack.
But you look at the team that, you know, if you compare the team, say the one in 2012, and compared that team to 2012 to that pack that you named, which is better? Which would you say is better?
Which pack is better? Or well, what's the differences? You've got Van der Merwe, you've got Brad Thorne, obviously. You've got.
But my point is
Leo Cullen.
that I would take the 12 pack over the 15 pack, and they didn't play the brand of rugby that you're going to kick the ball down into the corners. And
but will Johnny Sexton have Gordon Darcy outside him? Will he have Brian O'Driscoll outside him?
But going back to my original point was that it was disappointing that there was no one coming through from our fabled academy, and whether they weren't coming through or whether the coach wasn't selecting them to come through. But the point remains that, you know, if you look at, say, the under 20s team that's down in Italy at the moment, like I think there was 14 of them played. 14 Leinster guys played today in the 23. Very few of them have got outings on the first team.
Very few of them can drink. Well, I mean,
but the point is, but you look at
people are talking.
O'Driscoll scored 3 tries in Paris when he was 20. Like,
and none of them are 20.
But they're under 20. Give your man Ringrose a chance. Why don't they? Like, there was a perfect.
Tony Rode wrote an article and he was laughed out of for saying that the Leinster team should be built around Billy Dardis. Right? Would you build a team around Billy Dardis?
No.
Well, then why would you build a team around the guy that's the same age as Billy Dardis?
Because this guy has got a lot of class.
Well, so is Billy Dardis. Billy Dardis is a wonderful player. I think they're both great players, but I just don't think that they're ready for this. They're certainly not ready for European rugby yet. They might be ready for the Pro 12 during the.
I think they are ready
during the
for
World
the Pro
Cup,
12,
but I'm not sure if they're ready for Europe.
I'm hoping to see them.
I think that they're still young, and I think they're still small.
They weren't given the chance.
You've also got Ben Teo coming like a train at the end of the season, and you know, it's a bit mouth-watering to see Johnny Sexton will handle him. You know, outside him in the way he used to have Brian O'Driscoll outside of him. You know, okay, he's not the creative player O'Driscoll was certainly at this. You know, he's been playing rugby union a wet day, but he's got the feet and he's got the bosh. He's got, you know, he's a package.
I think he's going to be a great finisher. Yeah. Johnny will create from. The thing is, we need somebody at 12 who'll create. And that's the.
And he's got the offloads in as well. You know. You can offload out of the tackle. It's a big rugby league thing. Look, Sonny Bill, when he came from league, how he revolutionised. Okay, the quiet year in Toulon, I think, for the first year, but after that, he just revolutionised the game with his carving through the middle, with his size and his little giddly offloads. So,
ironically, playing at 12 rather than 13.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they're not playing with Theo at 12.
They might. I mean, what if Ringrose comes through?
If Ringrose comes through the World Cup well, and he comes through the Six Nations period well, or the World Cup period well. Sorry, I mean the Junior World Cup. If he comes through the Junior World Cup and then the Senior World Cup period well, then yes. But you couldn't throw that guy in last year. You just couldn't. He'd have been murdered.
And you also couldn't move Theo to 12 last year because the guys, you got to leave him in a position and let him develop. Look at Slamming Sam, is now he's the number 6.
On the
He's
other
getting
hand,
moved around.
on the other hand, you could say that maybe Keane Kelleher or guys of that generation might have deserved more of a chance, and they didn't get it. But
he's only a year older, I think.
he is only a year older, but he's a year bigger as well. I mean, would you have much of a worry about him or Adam Byrne or those guys playing more senior rugby than, because those are they're bigger guys,
Adam Byrne made his debut for Leinster at 18 and a half or something, and
what
I
age
think
is he now?
I think he was on. He's probably 20, and I think he was on
As
the
long as
bench.
longer than that. He was older. He was younger then. If he's 18, he's 20 now.
Don't quote me. Maybe he's 21.
Yeah.
But he was actually on the bench. I remember up in Ravenhill before he made his debut. So Joe Schmidt obviously had his eye on him, and he seems to have vanished off
Broke
the
his
face.
leg, didn't he?
Yeah, he broke his leg.
His ankle.
But he's away with the sevens at the moment. I mean, there's guys there as well. I mean, I think a guy who's ready for introducing into the senior team is Tom Daly.
Daly, yeah.
He has the physique for the position. He is he's man strong now as opposed to.
Yeah.
Because I remember you remember watching Luke Fitzgerald when he was playing schools rugby.
Yeah.
And the difference between the end of his school season and the end of his first senior season, just in his physical size, was immense.
Yeah.
So he just ate weights for a year.
Yeah. That's what you got to do when you're that age,
He also learned tackling. I think that was his second season in senior rugby. He learned how to tackle like a mother, because he was a little loose on the tackling the first season, but second season he nailed it, and he's
he's been
a great tackler ever since.
Leinster's strength at the moment, for whatever reason, we're churning out forwards. We are. I mean, you look at the level below what's there, and you've got the Burns.
I think that you made a good point though, like that the international team are, taking away the majority of the pack. So there's opportunities for guys to come through. However, there's also it's not as though we don't contribute any of the backs. Like there are some backs, they might be starters.
Rob Kearney.
They might be starters, but they're in the squad. They're certainly away with Ireland in Ireland camp.
That's true, yeah.
But he seems to go for the old libels. He's picking Zane. I know I'm talking about a guy who's gone now, but he's picked Zane Kirshner for the entire season when the guy had.
He's not gone. He's re-signed.
I know that.
Sorry.
I'm talking the coach is.
Oh,
gone.
sorry.
Right.
But the coach was picking Zane Kirshner, whose form fell off
a cliff.
He was picking Dave Carney, who I would say he was injured for chunks of it, but when he came back, he didn't like he's been picked on reputation, and similarly with, well, in my opinion, maybe with McFadden as well, they were kind of picked on who they were. They were Irish internationals, but they weren't doing anything when they were being picked to justify continually being picked, while there was opportunities to bring in some young blood, and if they fail, they fail. Give them a chance, though.
I agree.
I agree with what you're saying, but I do think that the reason why guys like Carney and McFadden were being picked is that they'd be nice and fit for the World Cup. I think there's an element to that as well. You can't, the coach can't, and this is a problem that O'Connor had. The coach can't ignore national concerns.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe so.
And those, I mean, those were Carney and Trimble were the championship winning wingers, and they're necessary for the World Cup.
They were the championship winning wingers, but there was 2 notable injuries in their positions that season.
Oh yeah, well, but that's the thing. That's why you need depth.
You do. I agree.
I mean, the guys that they. I mean, Tommy Bowe could just as easily get injured again. I mean, he does get injured a certain amount.
Yeah.
Dave Carney could be needed tomorrow, and there is Andy Tribble could be needed tomorrow. Neil Doak has a duty to make sure he's ready to play. So
yeah.
Well, thanks very much, boys, and thanks very much for watching over the past season. We will be back for the warm-up matches prior to the World Cup. So, again, thanks very much for watching for over the last year. Cheers.